what's up mga kokote? It's Megan Kuya Jen. Welcome sa pag-aaral. We're learning the name of our game. At kung bago pa lang sa aming YouTube channel, pindutin mo yung subscribe, like, and share buttons para mag-updated ka sa aming video. For today's video, this will be our last lecture video for this month. And let me see you again sa, I think, December. Yes, December yun na ulit ako mapapakinggan. And today, let's continue discussing Sobre La Indolencia de los Filipinos. So, ito yung mga notable quotations na pwede nating gamitin or unawain or i-analyze sa susunod pa nating mga discussions. Okay. We have already truly said that when a house becomes disturbed and disordered, we should not accuse the youngest child or the servants, but the head of it, especially if his authority is unlimited. He who does not act freely is not responsible for his actions, and the Filipino people, not being master of its liberty, is not responsible for either its misfortunes or its woes. We say this, it is true, but as we will be seen later on, we also have a large part in the continuation of such a disorder. The following, among other causes, contributed to foster the evil and aggravate it. The constantly lessening encouragement that labor has met with in the Philippines. The most commercial and most industrious countries have been the freest countries. We have France, England, and the United States prove this. Hong Kong, which is not worth the most insignificant of the Philippines, has more commercial movement than all the islands together because it is free and is well governed. Moreover, why work? As many natives. The curate says that the rich man will not go to heaven. The native whom they pretend to regard as an imbecile is not so much so that he does not understand that it is ridiculous to work himself to death to become worse off. A proverb of his says that the pig is cooked in its own lard, and as among his bad qualities, he has the good one of applying to him all the criticisms and censures. He prefers to live miserable and indolent, rather than play the part of the wretched beast of burden. Along with gambling, which breeds dislike for steady and difficult toil by its promise of sudden wealth and its appeal to the emotions, with the lotteries, with the prodigality and hospitality of the Filipinos, went also to swell his trains of misfortunes. The religious functions, the great number of fiestas, the long masses for the women to spend their mornings, and the novenaries to spend their afternoons, and the night for the processions and the rosaries. We have noticed that the countries which believe most in miracles are the laziest, just as spoiled children and the most ill-mannered. Whether they believe in miracles to palliate their laziness or they are lazy because they believe in miracles, we cannot say. But the fact is the Filipinos were much less lazy before the word miracle was introduced into their language. The apathy of the government itself toward everything in commerce and agriculture contributes not a little to foster indolence. There is no encouragement at all for the manufacturer or for the farmer. The government furnishes no aid, either when poor crop comes, when the locusts sweep over the fields, or when a cyclone destroys in its passage the wealth of the soil. Nor does it take any trouble to seek a market for the products of its colonies. The fact that the best plantations, the best tracts of land in some provinces, those that from their easy access are more profitable than others, are in the hands of the religious corporations, whose desideratum is ignorance and a condition of semi-starvation for the native, so that they may continue to govern him and make themselves necessary to his wretched existence, is one of the reasons why many towns do not progress in spite of the efforts of their inhabitants. In the same way, another young man won a prize in a literary competition, and as long as his origin was unknown, his work was discussed. The newspapers praised it, and it was regarded as a masterpiece. But the sealed envelopes were opened. The winner proved to be a native, while among the losers there were peninsulars. Then all the newspapers hastened to extol the losers. Not one word from the government nor from anybody to encourage the native who with so much affection was cultivating the language and letters of the mother country. Thus, while they attempt to make of the native a kind of animal, that in exchange they demand of him divine actions. And we say divine actions because he must be a god who does not become indolent in that climate, surrounded by the circumstances mentioned. Deprive a man then of his dignity, and you not only deprive him of his moral strength, but you also make him useless, even for those who wish to make use of him. Every creature has its stimulus, its mainsprings. Man's is his self-esteem. Take it away from him and he is a corpse, and he who seeks activity in a corpse will encounter only worms. The Filipino is convinced that to get happiness, it is necessary for him to lay aside his dignity as a rational creature, to attend mass, to believe that what is told him, to pay what is demanded of him, to pay and forever to pay, to work, suffer, and be silent without aspiring to anything, without aspiring to know or even to understand Spanish, without separating himself from his carabao, as the priests shamelessly say, without protesting against any injustice, against any arbitrary action against an assault, against an insult, that is, not to have heart, brain, or spirit. A creature with arms and a purse full of gold, there's the ideal native. Unfortunately, or because the brutalization is not yet complete and because the nature of man is inherent in his being in spite of his condition, the native protests, he still has aspirations. He thinks and strives to rise, and there's the trouble. We can reduce all these causes of two classes to defects of training and lack of international sentiment. Indolence is a corollary derived from the lack of stimulus and of vitality. That modesty infused into the convictions of everyone, or to speak more clearly, that insinuated inferiority, a sort of daily and constant depreciation of the mind so that it may not be raised to the regions of light, deadens, and energies. Paralyze all tendency toward advancement, and at the least struggle a man gives up without fighting. Nurtured by the example of anchorites of a contemplative and lazy life, the native spenders in giving their gold to the church in hope of miracles and other wonderful things. You can't know more than this, or that old man. Don't aspire to be greater than the curate. You belong to the inferior race. You haven't any energy. This is what they tell the child. And as they repeat it so often, it has perforce to become engraved on his mind and then mold and pervade all his actions. The Philippines are an organism whose cell seems to have no arterial system to irrigate it or nervous system to communicate its impressions. These cells must, nevertheless, yield their product, get it where they can. If they perish, let them perish. Without education and liberty, that soil and that son of mankind, no reform is possible. No measure can give the result desired. So that ends yung ating ni Dr. Rizal, yung Sobre La Indolencia de los Filipinos. It is not the full context, but ito yung mga pwede nating gamiting words of wisdoms or motivation in our life. You can take a screenshot of it, and of course, our source is to be credited. And yun, ayan, as I mentioned a while ago, this will be our last lesson for this month of April. And on May, ayan, bukas, it will be the turn of Kuya Kevin, wherein he will discuss to you some scientific strategies, lessons, and a mixture of alamat series and kwentong bayan, maikling kwento, and so on. That's all. Thank you for listening. If you have questions, concerns, and clarification, don't hesitate to message us on our email, cell phone number, or comment section. That's all. Have a great day. Stay safe. God bless you all. And remember that learning is the name of our game. Thank you.